We will be exploring range of motion in the shoulders, which has been our focus for this month in the last few classes, and we'll do so in a restorative format. So we'll begin by lying down on the back. You can take your legs long, your arms long. Close the eyes if you'd like. And invite your attention into your body. Recognizing any lines of thought that might be open and closing them down. Giving full attention to your inner landscape. And so as you feel the heaviness of the bones drop, start to take in information through your skin. Take the temperature of the air on the floor. Note the texture of your clothing. Let's go ahead and drop the jaw, let it relax. Release your eyes back into the skull. And soften across your eyebrows. And release all the muscles beneath your scalp. And as you notice your breath, begin to explore. See if you can find the tops of your lungs on the inhale. As you go, feeling into the sides, even the back of the lungs. With your exhales, draw your belly down toward the floor, down toward the spine. And when you think all the air is gone, squeeze out a little bit more air. On your inhales, allow yourself to explore. On your exhales, actively emptying. And we'll continue with this breath throughout our practice today. I invite you to call to mind, as we move today, the concept of abundance. The idea of being enough, having enough, and finding the value, the self-worth through our movements today. And we'll begin. Take a big full body stretch. Reach your arms out, your legs away. You can even roll out your wrists and your ankles. And bring both legs in towards your chest. Give yourself a little hug and take a little side to side. Get a little back massage going. And come to the middle and slide your left leg long. Let it rest on the ground. And of course, if this is not comfortable, you can always bend your knee, put the foot on the ground. But if you have access, go ahead and slide the bottom leg long. And here we'll breathe in and stretch the top leg out so much that you get a good stretch going in the arms. Breathe in here. As you breathe out, squeeze your leg up and around your torso. So it's kind of like you're trying to plug your knee into your armpit. And one thing that happens here is the right hip will go up as well. So you'll get kind of scrunched up on the right side. See if you can slide your right leg away from you so it stays in line with the left. And still squeezing the leg in. And that's okay if that doesn't make much sense now. Over time, it might. Inhales, we'll press out. Exhale, squeeze it up and around. And keep on going through these. Take a few on your own. As you do, feeling the weightedness of your bottom leg and the evenness of your pelvis, your hips. You can release, switch it out. We'll take the other side. Clasping your hands somewhere on the left leg. And of course, doing the same variation you did on the other side if you need to. Inhale, push your top leg out. Let that stretch your arms, even behind the heart. Exhale, squeezing it up and around your torso. And keep going through these at your own pace. I really like to slightly press the bottom leg down into the floor and see if that informs your stretch at all. And of course, being mindful not to scrunch up the left hip too much, but rather keep it dropping down in line with the right. All right, go ahead and release. Let's take the arms out to a T and step your feet wide on the edges of your mat. So feet are wide here. And on your inhale, or keeping your feet on the ground rather, so keep your feet on the ground and let your knees drop out a bit. And that's pretty subtle, right? Because we don't want to lift the feet. So the knees will splay out. Feet are still rooted. Inhale. On your exhale, bring your knees towards each other and squeeze the knees together. Drop your belly back toward the floor. So we're just moving in and out of external rotation while keeping the feet floored. Inhale, we'll press them out. Exhale, squeeze them together. And just two more like that, just feeling what it is to play with internal and external rotation through the hips. All right, come on back to neutral with your legs. We'll drop the knees over to the right and look over the left shoulder. Just windshield wipering the legs. Nice, there you go. Pausing to let the bones drop. Dissolve any tightness around the thigh bones. Inhale it back to center. Drop your knees over to the left. You can look over your right shoulder this time. Noticing if this side feels any different than the other. Maybe, maybe not. If so, in what ways does it feel different? Inhale on back to center. Now we'll start to take it with the breath. Exhale, knees to the right, gaze to the left. Inhale, center. Exhale, knees left, gaze right. Inhale, center. Take just a few of these on your own. And that exhale, let it come to a complete rest. So instead of just rushing from one breath to the other, we're finding complete rest on the exhales. Last few like this. I really enjoy tuning into the sensation of the glutes rolling on the ground, letting the weightedness of the bones onto the floor create this kind of massage sensation, allowing the compression to release any tension or tightness. So go ahead and finish up this round so you're balanced out on both sides. Next time you're back in the center, straighten out both legs. Nice work. Left arm up overhead, roll onto your left side, and take your bottom arm out to the side so that it's in line with your shoulder. You can let your head hang. If that's not comfortable for you, then you're always welcome to grab hold of a block or a cushion or whatever you need to kind of rest your head up on there. And we'll pretend that I mentioned that earlier. So you've got your arm here in line with the shoulder. We're gonna bend the elbow so I got this 90-degree situation and take your top hand right on top there. So with your hand on top, press both hands into each other. So you've got some resistance between the two. And I'll say like 25, maybe 30% resistance. Begin to lower your bottom hand toward the floor. So as your bottom hand lowers, your top hand is resisting, and see how far you can take it. Some of you that are more mobile, you might even get it towards the floor. I've got really mobile shoulders, and I cannot get towards the floor. So that's okay, no need to force it. So you'll hold for a moment right at the end range there, resisting, And then with that same amount of effort, start to bring it back. Bring it back to that 90-degree. Awesome, wonderful patience. So now we'll add on more effort. We'll say about, 60, maybe 70% effort, more effort, same thing. Start to take it down. If this is the first time you've done it, it can be difficult to discern the intensity levels. So if you're feeling confused with that, that's okay. It's the first time. Once you get to your end range of motion, pause in stillness with the same amount of effort, and then begin your return. Same amount of effort. You might start to feel a little fatigue. That is the sensation of getting stronger. Awesome. Once you're back at the top, this time go full effort. Full effort with both hands and return back toward the floor. Full effort. Find your end range. You'll pause briefly, full effort at the end range, and then begin to return. Wonderful job. Once you're back there, you can release. Oh boy, that is enough of that. Return to your back, legs long, arms long. Take just a moment there to tune into the after effects of that action. You might feel some heat, little pulses. Take it all in. Right arm up overhead. Go ahead and roll over onto your right side. I'm going to turn around the other way so you can see me a little bit better. Same thing here. You might find that cushion for your head. And with your bottom hand out in line with your shoulder, go ahead and bend your elbow. And you'll take your top hand right above the bottom and press the two into each other with about, around about 30% of your effort. And begin to lower. You're resisting with your top hand. You might notice this arm feels very different than the other. In what ways does it feel different? Pause briefly at your end range, continuing the effort. After your pause, you can start to return it back. Whew. Once you get back to your starting point here, add on a little more effort. Maybe, 60 to 70%. Once more. Taking the arm toward the floor. Find your end range. Is this end range different than your first side? Maybe, maybe not. After your pause, return on back. Nicely done. Final round, full effort, max effort here. Once more, toward the earth. Notice how the effort wavers, and play with consistency. Pause at the end range, take it all in, and then you can return back to your starting point. Ooh, oh boy. All right, release, return to your back. Legs long, arms long. Take a moment to check in. Go with your knees in. Okay, cross your heels, we'll rock up and down a few times. Take your time to build up the momentum. Let it feel good, iron out the back. And we'll meet in a comfortable seat. So for some of us, sitting is hard. And then we'll pull in our block, our bolster, or anything that you need to make yourself comfortable here. Placing your hands wherever feels more natural. We'll breathe in to lift up through the back of the skull. Maintain that length and begin to release your chin down towards your chest. Feel the back of the neck nice and long. Now start to cross your chin so your right ear goes to your right shoulder. So you're crossing your chin the opposite way. Then begin to lift your chin up and back. So you're tilting your head back behind you, opening the front of the throat. And continue the rotation, taking your opposite ear towards your opposite shoulder. And we're taking this nice and slow, eventually returning the chin down to the chest. Now continue that. Go ahead and take one more full rotation on your own. Feeling the weight of your head guide the movement. And the next time your chin is down towards your chest, you can return your ears up over your shoulders, neutralizing. Let's take it the opposite direction. Release your chin back down. Begin to take your chin over to the opposite way. Slowly, carefully, chin up toward the ceiling. Rotating opposite ear, opposite shoulder. And completing the rotation, chin returns down toward the chest. Slow and steady, take one more rotation, just like that. And be curious about how the chin informs the movement. And even how the weight of your skull can help access more length. And in your own time, when the chin is back down toward the chest, you can return your head back to neutral. Nice done. Let's switch out the cross on the leg. So you've got your opposite foot in front. And here we'll hold on to the elbows. It's kind of like I Dream of Jeannie style. Holding on to the elbows. Now drop your hip bones down, invite your belly back. We're going to turn toward the right. Lift the arms up. And it's okay if they don't go very high. Find your own kind of method there. Then as you round your spine, you'll lower your elbows down. Round your spine, kind of like a typewriter. Draw the arms across the body. So you're kind of opening your arms up to the side, lifting them up and overhead. So try not to overthink it and draw a few circles here with your arms. Rounding the spine as the arms go down, maybe even arching the spine as the arms go up. Using the weight of your sit bones to anchor the body down. And the lifting of the arms to access the upper body. Last one like this. Next time you're back towards the center, you can switch out the cross on your arms. So you got the opposite hand on top, and then we're going to take it the opposite direction. So then rotating, I believe, to the left. Lift the arms up. Then begin to round your spine, closing through the chest. Keep reaching the arms away from you as you circle down and around, rotating the opposite direction, then lifting up and overhead. Take a few of these circles on your own. And you'll notice if you keep reaching your elbows away from your body, you're spreading out the space behind your heart. Kind of stretching out the back body. And see just how big of circles you can draw here. Last round like this. Next time you're back in the center, release your arms, take a neutral seat, pausing briefly to observe. All right, nicely done. Let's come out to all fours and tabletop and take the toes together, the big toes together, that is. And your knees are about outer hip or shoulder width distance apart. So not too wide, not too short. And your hands are spread out really wide, wide underneath your shoulders. All right, begin to sit your hips back towards your heels. So not quite child's pose, but kind of like child's pose and tabletop combined. Here we'll arch your spine, so turn your tail back, your chin up. A lot like cow pose. Inhale here. You can even feel your hands pull back. And exhale, round your spine, curl your tail under, your chin in. And feel your hands pull apart. Try if you like this on your own. Inhale, arching your spine, hands draw toward the knees. Exhale, rounding your spine, feeling your hands pull apart. Last few on your own. And so again, as you move through these, notice if one arm fires more than the other. I know for me, usually my left arm just kind of participates more. And so because of that, I got to use my brain to get my right hand more involved. So see if you can use your brain to bring more intelligence, more awareness, evenness into both hands. Come on back to neutral when you're ready. Let's pull all the way up into tabletop, all the way up into our table. Now, draw your navel back towards your spine, okay? Kind of taking out the curve of your low back. And press down through the insides of your hands. Take your right hand behind your head. And on an inhale, let's lift the top elbow up toward the ceiling. So it's kind of like you're stacking your top shoulder over your bottom. Now turn your bottom bicep forward. Inhale. Exhale, we'll start to close the chest, crossing the top elbow under and over the midline. Two more like that. Inhale, open, lifting up, stacking shoulders. Exhale, crossing under. One more like that on your own. Nice work. Come on back to table, nice and neutral. We'll switch it out, but first, draw the belly in. First, press down through the hands, so we're nice and alive through the core. Then we can take our left hand behind the head, press the tops of your feet, press your shins down, and we'll inhale, open. Stack your left shoulder over your right this time. Check in with your bottom arm. Can you turn your bottom bicep forward a bit? Inhale. Exhale. Close and cross it under. Inhales, open. Exhale, close and cross. Last one on your own. Taking your time, of course. When you're through, come on back to center. Nicely done. Let's take the hands about a handprint forward. So you're a little bit longer, you're a long table. Tuck your toes under and sit your hips back towards your heels. Dig the toes evenly into the floor and stretch the crown of your head forward towards your hands. All right, now looking forward, stack your hips up over your knees once more. Hips up over the knees once more, and hover your knees up over the ground, like maybe an inch. Inhale, hug the belly in. And exhale, come on back into downward facing dog. Pressing your chest way back towards your legs and surrendering the neck, letting it drop down. And so we'll come in and out of this a few times, doing a little breath count action. As you drop your knees, inhale, arch your spine, kind of like cow, but a little longer. Exhale, round your spine, hover your knees, kind of like a weird cat. Inhale, straighten your legs, downward facing dog. Stay for an exhale, relax the neck. Inhale, drop the knees, arch your spine like cow. Exhale, round your back, float your knees. Inhale, downward facing dog. Lift the hips up and back. Pause for an exhale, surrender the neck. Take 3 more like this on your own. Inhales, you'll find the arch. Exhales, round. Inhale, downward facing dog. Pause for exhale. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Pause in your downward facing dog. Let's set the knees down first. There we go. We'll set the knees down and take your right foot in between your right hand. Right foot comes in between the right hand. I'm going to scoot back a little bit because I can tell my head's about to get cut off. So right foot is there. Untuck your back toes, and we'll lift the shoulders up here over the hips. I think my head's still cut off. Oh well, not the end of the world. Clasping your hands above your front knee. Slide your front knee away from you and lift up. So one thing that happens in this pose when we bend the knee is this happens, this kind of like archy back situation. So instead of that today, I want you to feel this kind of like tucking under and this closing through the hips. So closing of ribs and hips towards each other. We're going to keep that kind of engaged center, this core set of strength as we bend the knee, and then just add a slight bend. And by keeping the hips closed with that slight bend, really lights up that front hip, back hip rather. Go ahead and lift up out. Play with that, take just a few like that, just kind of exploring. And if the ribs are closed, a little bit really goes a long way here. And then you can choose if you want to stay lifted, meaning your heel above the knee could stay here, or once you got that closed situation, then you might slide your knee forward and option to lift the arms up, reaching the sides of the bodies long. More from here, take your left arm underneath your right. You can take opposite shoulders or take the eagle arms, backs of hands together, maybe palms of hands together, and lift the elbows out and up. And I've still got that closed hip situation, but if you'd like to find a little bit of a back bend, you might take your elbows up and out without getting too carried away, without dumping into the low back at all. You might even feel your 2 feet pull towards each other for a little more stability through the low body. Last few breaths here, softening the eyes, softening behind the face. Inhale. Exhale, come back to center if you're not already. Release your hands to frame your foot. All right, let's go ahead and cool off that front leg. Again, straighten your front leg. You might need to wiggle it forward a bit here. And as you breathe in, stretch your heart forward, take your left hip forward. And in fact, let's press your hands down and forward as you pull your front heel back. Hands down and forward as you draw your front heel back. And just that slight amount of directional pressure will bring some sensation behind the leg. Notice if there's any tension gathering at your neck, and if so, allow the head to hang. Let that tension fall away. Last few breaths here. Inhale to lift up. Nicely done. Return the bend into your knee. Tuck your back toe, lift your back knee, and we'll step back towards downward facing dog. Just a breath or two here to observe. Knees can come on back to the ground. Step your left foot forward in between the hands. Then I've got the heel right below the knee, and I'm gonna come on up to a kneeling position. Head cut off and everything. And from my kneeling position, and clasp the hands above the front knee. And first, actually, let's take the hands to the hips and kind of clarify what we talked about on the other side. So with your hands on your hips, turn your tail out and kind of find this banana back situation, right? So you can feel that curve happening in the back. Then find its opposite, just relaxing the tail down and dropping the ribs down. So we're gonna keep that opposite, hug the ribs down toward the hips. Then with your hands clasped, keeping the torso as is, find a little bend in the front knee. And straighten. Take a few of these, just kind of cruising through and exploring how the bend informs the front hip. If this side is different than your first side, in what ways is it different? If any, might be the same for you. That's okay. We'll say about 2 more. And then you'll make your choice whether you want to stay lifted or you want to stay bent, and pull your front heel and your back knee towards each other. We'll keep that, and you can release your arms on up. Use the tips of your fingers toward the ceiling to lengthen the sides of your bodies. Keep all that length and take your right arm underneath your left. So eagle arms, we've got maybe hands to shoulders, backs of hands, maybe palms of hands together. And as you pull the arms towards each other to spread out behind the heart, breathe behind the heart. Maybe, just maybe, finding a little bit of lift through the chest, maintaining that core set of strength through the belly. Last few breaths here. Consider sliding your front knee further forward. Consider relaxing further behind the face. Inhale. Come on back to neutral. Exhale to release. Hands down to frame the foot. Nicely done, everyone. Now we can straighten up the front leg. Cooling it off. And with your hands to the ground, so almost like down dog here, right? So as your hands press down and forward, even carve your right hip forward. And with your hands down and forward, press your front heel down as you slightly pull it back. Now, these are isometric movements, meaning moving without moving. Subtle activation through the body. And we're using our attention to inquire, am I holding tension anywhere I don't need it? So for some of us, that might be behind the neck, let it go. Might even be the base of your tongue or the space behind the eyes. Last few breaths here. Inhale. Lift yourself on up. Return to your lunge position with your back knee lifted. And let's step back into downward facing dog. Do a little check-in. Noticing the feelings through the body. All right, nice work. Now we can return the knees back down toward the earth. And with your knees back down toward the earth, let's take the right arm out to the side. And thread the needle, sliding your hand behind your wrist. Relax your shoulder, your ear. And you can even slide your left arm straight out ahead. Now for me, I've got my hips over the knees, and that might be fine for you. So if it is, then stay put. If you'd like a little bit more, first look forward, so chin towards the mat, then slide one leg back at a time, lowering the torso, both hips to the ground, and resting the forehead. If you're lowering down toward the ground, be sure to tuck your toes under momentarily just to pitch the body forward a bit. And then untuck the toes to rest. Release your top shoulder enough so that it feels relaxed, just like the bottom. And you can even breathe into your belly, feel it push towards the earth. Last few breaths here. Consider releasing the jaw more, even the roof of the mouth more. Inhale. And return your left hand by your face. And slowly, really take your time. And sliding both hands below your shoulders, move back to child's pose. Try to keep your head as low as you can. As you're ready, return to your table. We'll switch it out, left arm to the side. And thread the needle, slide it behind your wrist, shoulder and ear can relax. Right arm can go straight out ahead. And this is a great place for us to stay. And if you do it on the other side, you'll look forward to slide one leg at a time back, taking it down onto the fronts of the hips. Those who are lowering will tuck the toes just to send the body forward a bit, and then untuck to rest. And tension has a way of leaving one part of the body and then trying to set up camp in another. And so you might notice that happening to your top shoulder. If so, let it drop. Let it be relaxed, just like the bottom. And it can also sometimes help to breathe into the belly and feel that gentle pressure of it moving towards the ground. And last few breaths here. Inhale. And return your right hand by your face. Really slowly, keep your head low as you lift your chest, just to slide your hands back below your shoulders and move on to child's pose, taking a seat on your heels and resting your forehead toward the ground. All right. Now we'll pull ourselves all the way onto the belly, lowering down. And once you're on your belly, slide your elbows underneath your shoulders. Slide your elbows forward underneath your shoulders, coming in towards Sphinx pose. Now in Sphinx pose, it's really tempting to just kind of like slump down and have your ears hanging out with your shoulders. But instead, we're going to walk the elbows so they're directly under the shoulders, not wider, please. Then push the floor away with the forearms so we're really lifted. So my hands, my forearms are pressing down and a little bit apart too. In fact, let's draw the elbows back toward the hips and draw the heart further forward. Elbows pull back, hips are pressing down. Now you might decide to stay here. This could be enough for you today. Otherwise, take your right forearm in line with the short edge of your mat. So crossing it forward, we're gonna bend the left leg. In fact, let's tuck the bottom toes under. So as you tuck your bottom toes under, you'll bend your left leg and then lift your knee up off the floor. And it's not gonna go very far, right? But you'll feel that knee lift. Now keep drawing your elbows back towards your hips. Some of us will stay in this action. Others will take the left hand back toward the foot, guiding your heel towards your glute. I like to spin the fingers in line with the toes. It's not super required. But as your elbow pulls back, slide your bent knee back, continuing to guide the heel down toward the hips. Lots of length through the bent leg. Last few breaths here. You might even lean to your left hip a bit more. Inhale. Exhale. Carefully release. Let's take one hand on top of the other and take a little breather. Rest your forehead down. Notice the heart rate and allow it to settle. All right, let's switch it out. Let's take the other side. So return your elbows back where you found them, underneath the shoulders there. Hands are spread out, so no crunchy hands, please. Hands are spread out. And in fact, let's tuck both toes under for this one. And as you walk your toes in, slide your heels back. Elbows pull back, lots of lift. Now we can take the left forearm in line with the short edge of the mat, bend your right knee, and lift your right knee up off the floor. And it might even be just an inch. Now you can stay with this, or reach your right hand back, find your foot, and as you guide your heel towards your bottom, you might even pivot on the palm of your hand so that your fingers go towards your toes. With your heel guiding down, slide your bent knee away from you. So your bottom toes come towards you as your bent knee slides away. Meanwhile, drawing that front elbow back to help keep the lift. Last few breaths here. Maybe rolling into your right hip to even it out. Inhale. Exhale. Very good. Go ahead and release. Stack one hand on top of the other and rest your forehead. And let the breath start to smooth out. You might be noticing a little extra energy, a little bit of adrenaline. Be present with that. Okay. So now with your hands below your shoulders, let's lift on up to this kneeling position and come into a proper kneel. So your hips are stacked over your knees and your shoulders are right over your hips. And we'll go ahead and tuck the toes under here. So tuck the toes under. With your hands out in front of you, bring your palms to face each other. And just lean your way back a bit. So just like we did in that lunge, we can relax your arms for a minute. Sorry, my bad. So just like we did in that lunge, instead of having this kind of banana situation, we're closing the ribs toward the hips, maintaining this nice line here. So let's keep that intact. Now let's take the arms forward, keep that intact, and lean your weight back slightly. You'll feel the quads fire up quite a bit, and then return back to neutral. Again, leaning back. And return to neutral. And so for our last round here, we'll release the arms alongside of us. Turn your palms open so your thumbs go back and squeeze behind your heart. Squeeze behind the heart together and then reach your hands away from your body. It won't go far. Now we'll begin to lean back again. You can either stay here or if you're able, take the tips of the fingers inside the heels. Now we can lift the heart up toward the ceiling, finding a lift through the upper back, squeezing behind your heart. You might even send your hips a little further forward. Last few breaths here in this modified camel pose. Explore your lungs with the air. Inhale. Take one hand at a time onto your low back. Lift yourself back to your starting point. And take child's pose. Untuck your toes. And let's make it a proper child's pose with your arms alongside of you instead of forward. Taking a moment here to notice. Notice how the actions have affected the body. Wonderful, wonderful job. Let's come back up to our kneeling position. You can set your hips to the side and bring your legs around. And as your knees hug in towards your chest, go ahead and roll yourself on down to your back. Once you're on your back, you can give yourself a little hug, a little side to side. And setting the bottoms of your feet down. Take a figure four pose. Cross your right heel over your left knee. Flare your toes out really wide. And you're pressing your heel into that space above your knee, into your what's called the suprapatellar pouch, which I think is the cutest name for a body part. Then you can decide to stay here or begin to grab hold somewhere on your left leg, draw it in nice and close. And it's okay if your tailbone lifts up off the floor, but let's balance that out by dropping the shoulders, dropping the back of the skull to the ground. And you might even take a little rock side to side. Inhale. Release your arms out to a T. You'll put your left foot back on the ground where you found it. Reaffirm the connection of your heel to the space above the knee. And then let's roll it over onto the left side. Yeah, it's a weird one. Toward the left side, so your hips kind of on the ground. It might not make it all the way to the ground for some of us, and that's okay, but find your edge. And once you get there, think of taking your top knee down toward your bottom heel. So top knee down toward the left heel. And while you're here, let's send the breath down into the low belly. So you're filling your deep abdominals with air. Last few breaths. Make sure you're not tightening the shoulders or the armpits at all. Let those be supported and relaxed. Inhale. Take your time, come on back to center. Straighten your right leg and create little movements with your top foot. And switch it out. Left heel is over the right, flexing your foot, pressing heel above the knee. And that might be enough for you today, or you can grab hold somewhere on the right leg, start to bring it in. Actively moving your top leg away from the body. And maybe even rocking a little bit side to side. No crunchy shoulders, please. No tense neck. If you find that that's the habit here, the pattern here, tune into the sensation of the floor and see just how much work you can drop into the floor. Inhale. And exhale, release your arms to a T. You can put your right foot on the ground once more. Start to roll it over onto your right side. Shoulders rest evenly if possible. Reaffirm the heel above the knee and then start to drop your top knee down toward your bottom heel. So left knee down toward the right foot. Filling up the low belly with air. And staying relaxed through the chest, through the skull. Last few breaths. Inhale. Exhale, return back to center. Release your legs. Grab hold of the opposite edges of your feet. Now, if you don't have access to your feet, you'll hold inside the knees. So find one of those. Spread your low back into the mat. Let your head and shoulders drop. And take your happy baby. Maybe rocking side to side or even straightening one or both legs at a time. You feel free to play, get creative if there's anything you want to add on here. And in your own time, you can start to release. If there's any poses you need to make your practice feel complete, you're always welcome to take those. Otherwise, you can release your legs long, your arms long, and coming into your Shavasana. And turn your palms face up alongside of you for a passive opening of the shoulders. And we let the body drop. All of the efforts release. And in the same way that you would listen to a dear friend, in the same way that you would listen to their tone, their pace, their choice of words, their facial expressions, in the same way that you would listen to a dear friend, listen to the body. Listen to your breathing, your heart beating, and even any sounds around you. And taking in all of the details of your immediate experience. Strengthening our relationship with our capital S self and our relationship to the here and now. You'll have a few moments here to strengthen that relationship, and I'll wake you in just a bit when we're through. Now you're welcome to stay in Shavasana as long as you'd like to. But if you're ready to move on, you can begin to deepen the sound of your breathing. And bring in any movements into your body that feel natural and organic. You might enjoy a full body stretch. And lift your knees in, roll it over onto your right side. And in your own time, come up to a seat. Your eyes closed, your palms connected together, and bowing your chin down to your chest. And as we go about our week, may we continue to practice listening to ourselves and noticing if we're listening only to the mind, only to the thoughts, and then sharing that attention with our heart, sharing the attention with our belly, sharing the attention to all the details of our present moment. In the same way that we would listen to a dear friend, may we listen to our immediate experience. Namaste.